Today we have with us the Honda BRV. Let's do a review. We're currently on a media drive with Honda Cars Philippines for the BRV, and unlike most media drives where we only get a couple of hours with the car, we get a week this time. So it's a perfect time to do a review, so let's talk about this car. The second generation BRV was launched last year as Honda's entry into the popular 7-seater compact MPV and SUV segments. Assigned to us is the 1.5S CVT variant, which is priced at 1,150,000 Philippine pesos. What I like about the BRV is its low-key appearance. It's not too loud like a Hyundai Stargazer and Mitsubishi Xpander, and not too flashy like a Toyota Veloz. Everything on the exterior is practically the same regardless of variant, with only the grille being different for this and the V variant, having it finished in matte black. We still get LED headlights with DRLs and LED fog lights. On the side, this new BRV still looks similar with the previous generation. You can see here the very premium looking 17-inch two-tone alloy wheels wrapped in Bridgestone Turanza tires, standard on all CVT variants. And towards the back, it's very simple with a plain tailgate design and horizontal LED taillights that look similar to that of the Honda City. Once you open the tailgate, we do have plenty of space as expected, though sadly, the presence of the third row doesn't allow for a flat floor unlike with its rivals. A small shelf is available on the top spec variant, but not here. But with the seats up, space is still pretty decent as you can see. By the way, before we enter, while we have push start inside, we still need to unlock the car using the key fob as this variant lacks smart keyless entry. And now we're inside the Honda BRV, and as you can see here, compared to the previous generation, this one is rather simple while the previous one was kinda sporty. So it's not a bad thing, it's really nice still. It looks very similar to what you'd get in the current generation or outgoing generation Honda CR-V, especially the design of the air vents here on top. And it's also good to note that since this is the base automatic variant, so it's the S, we do have completely hard touch plastic materials all over this interior, so don't expect to find any soft touch materials here except for this armrest right here in the middle. Even the door panel armrest doesn't come in leather or fabric, but it is good to note that most of it does feel pretty good as well, so it doesn't feel as cheap as the previous generation. The previous one had kind of questionable build quality when it comes to the plastic materials, but this one, all good. Then for the steering wheel, we do have a polyurethane steering wheel. It's a really nice looking steering wheel, by the way, and the material used, the polyurethane, also feels really nice, unlike in some of its rivals which do feel really cheap. This one is kind of soft, so that is really nice. And also we have here audio controls and Bluetooth phone controls. We don't have cruise control unfortunately on this variant, but I guess that will do. And for the horn, it's your typical Honda horn. Then also the steering wheel is only tilt adjustable for this variant. If I'm not mistaken, the higher variants do have telescopic adjustment, but at least it is positioned really well, so that also helps. And then right there we do have our simple analog instrument cluster, so we just have some analog gauges over there. Very simple, but it does look really nice. In the middle we do have a small screen that shows us our trip computer, so it reminds me of Hondas from 10 years ago. So Hondas from 10 years ago already had these, and it's very simple to use. Just have to press trip A, trip B, fuel range, and odometer. That's everything that you can find there. Then here in the center we do have a 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system. It's really small, but it doesn't feel that way, thankfully. And even if it looks a bit aftermarket, thankfully this is a Honda system, so it is very responsive as you can see right now. Very easy to use. Although the interface could look better, it is still very easy to use, very easy to understand. It's very similar to what you'd get in the Honda City and Honda HR-V. Then of course it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, thankfully, so that always makes it look so much better and makes it even easier to use. Then we also have some hard buttons on the side which are helpful, although knobs would still be better. Then right below that we do have our digital climate control, so at least that looks very nice to see as well. It looks very modern. So we do have some simple buttons for the controls, very easy to use, large buttons by the way, and very well labeled, and a very nice display right there. Then moving further down, we have two USB ports right there, one for our infotainment system and one for charging, 12-volt power outlet. We do have some storage there and our 2 cup holders. Then right here we have our very nice shifter as well. Thankfully this is not the usual shifter that we see on most Honda vehicles today, which I don't really like. This one looks very nice, and it also feels kind of better, but almost the same. Then if you put it in reverse, we do have our reverse camera. Even if this is the lower variant, we don't have parking sensors, but that will do. Then moving here, we do have some more storage, but I wouldn't recommend putting anything because they do tend to slide here. And then our traditional parking brake right here. And then right here, our center armrest, which I mentioned earlier, and we do have a good amount of storage right inside that. And then for the seats, they're very simple, they're very small actually. I think the headrest looks really cute if you ask me, and they're wrapped in a fabric material, which does feel really nice as well. It doesn't feel cheap, it feels very durable as well. Also, Honda is really proud that this driver seat already has its manual height adjuster, but I don't think it's really that needed because this seat is positioned a bit high up. I wish it was a bit lower, but regardless, the seats are very comfortable. It's very well supportive. I did not find any problems with it, although I do think that there's a bit too much lumbar support, but at least you won't be finding yourself having an aching back during a long drive. And now we're here in the second row of the BRV, and as you can see, we do have loads of space back here. We do have lots of foot room, lots of knee room, lots of leg room, which is very nice. I'm 5 feet and 7 inches in height, and this seat is in my driving position, so that really helps with a family vehicle like this. Then the materials are, as you'd expect, just like in front, everything is hard touch plastic. Don't expect to find any soft touch here except for the seats themselves, which by the way are a bit too flat in my opinion. So there is that. It doesn't have as much support as I'd like, but at least they are kind of comfortable, I guess, although a bit firm as well. We also don't have a center armrest right over here, so you can only use the door panels as your armrest. And up here we do have some air vents, so 3 of them, and the control is right over there as well. Then down there we do have a 12-volt power outlet. Unfortunately, we don't have any USB ports right here, and we only have one seat back pocket, which is on the passenger seat. And finally, we're in the third row, which is probably the most important place to be in a 7-seater because we want to see how much we can fit here. And in my case, I can fit here quite well, surprisingly. So I do have this seat positioned a bit forward, so second row passengers will have to sacrifice a little bit of space for the third row passengers, but it's still pretty good. So I have foot room, surprisingly. I can put my feet under the second row seats, and knee room is just right, so my legs are brushing against the seats a bit. But still, despite this seat, the other seat being in a standard position, I still have good space back here. But of course, it's still best reserved for children, and there's really not much to find over here. So the air vents again are right over there, so we don't have any air vents for the third row passengers. And we do have 2 cup holders, one on each side, and a little bit of storage as well. And now we're driving the Honda BRV, and like I mentioned earlier, we are currently having a week with this car after a media drive in Honda. So we drove this to Tagaytay, the usual places, and we were able to get a full experience of all types of roads with this vehicle. So first, let's talk about the engine. This is powered by a 1.5 liter iVTEC engine, our very familiar engine from the Honda City, Honda Jazz, and the Honda HR-V, and it produces 121 horsepower and 145 Newton meters of torque paired to an Earthstream CVT. And again, we drove this from Manila up to Tagaytay to do some coffee classes. So we were able to find out the different types of coffee from gourmet farms. We were able to even try creating our own latte art. So it's actually a fun experience, and it's something that I'd love to do again, especially since I do like drinking coffee despite its negative effects on me. And the Honda BRV was the perfect companion for that trip. And now we're currently driving in Pampanga, and I have to say that definitely this vehicle is one of the best driving in the segment, if not the best, especially with that engine, which is the most powerful in the segment. Not the most torquey anymore, but it is the most powerful, and it really translates to the whole driving experience. You can really feel how much quicker this is compared to its rivals. You can feel how much more fun it is to drive. The engine instantly responds as soon as you give it some input, like you give the accelerator some inputs. It's very, very responsive. So that's something that is really a signature of the engine that this has. Also, of course, being a Honda, it sounds really good, especially with that iVTEC. And the VTEC actually still kicks in somewhere in the higher rev switch. Also, I have to say that this is a very rev-happy engine. So yeah, it doesn't feel underpowered, but you may feel like it because of its sound. So it doesn't actually feel when you feel the actual vehicle, but the sound does make it feel a bit underpowered because this vehicle really loves to rev really loud. I was actually also able to drive the Honda Mobilio way back and going up to Sagada with a full load of 6 passengers and luggage. And that was really, not one time did it feel underpowered. So I guess that translates to the BRV as well, given the fact that there's a similar engine and even a better engine compared to that of the Mobilio. So similar size as well for the vehicle. And also same goes on the highway. I had lots of fun driving this on the highway. Not once did I feel the lack of power when I had to overtake or do any overtakes. Then when it comes to steering and handling, it's also what you'd expect from a Honda. So it does feel a bit vague at times, but at the same time, you do have enough feedback for the road. So you really know where the vehicle is headed to whenever you give it the steering some inputs, and it also handles really well. Not much body roll there. It is there, but it's expected from an SUV, and it isn't much anyway. What could be improved greatly on this vehicle is the NVH insulation, because it is quite noisy, especially the road noise. So that a lot of that does come into the cabin. So I do find it annoying at times. Other vehicles in the segment like the Hyundai Stargazer does have way better NVH insulation. But vibrations, that's pretty good. The engine is really smooth. Everything is pretty smooth here. Ride quality rather is also very, very, very good. So it's what you'd expect. It's a bit stiffer compared to its rivals as well, but that's how you get the sporty feeling out of this Honda BRV. Although again, most people will probably prefer a plusher ride for a vehicle like this. And so now we're taking this turn really fast but yeah, feels really good. So no problem at all with the way this handles. As for visibility, it's also really, really good, given the fact that this vehicle does have really large windows, really large windshield all around, even the rear windshield. Lots of visibility in this vehicle, plus the reverse camera, of course. But of course, if you get the higher variant like the VX, if I'm not mistaken, it does have Honda's lane watch camera, so that will also help a lot, because the side mirrors of this are quite small. And for fuel economy, this does really, really good as well. So it drive from Manila to Tagaytay and back to Manila, returned around 16 kilometers per liter. Then a drive from Manila to Pampanga did return over 19 kilometers per liter. Given the fact that I was also stuck in some heavy traffic during that time, despite it being night, it still was able to return a really impressive 19 kilometers per liter. So this is going to be very fuel efficient. The Honda BRV is a solid choice in a very crowded segment. If you're looking for the most comfortable, the best NVH, honestly, this isn't for you. But if you're looking for the best driving one, the most fun to drive, and also something that doesn't stand out too much, then this is perfect for you. Honestly, I'd get this over anything else in the segment.